Welcome to Television Sydney News. I'm Bianca Martins. It's great to have you with us. In this week's bulletin, Parkley markets to stay in business, Sydney Airport plays down the need for a second facility, and poems of love and life at Parramatta. But first, trekkers reenacting the bicentenary of the first European crossing of the Blue Mountains have been prevented from reaching the finish line. The reenactment started at St Mary's on May 11 and traced the footsteps of explorers Blacktown, Wentworth and Lawson for 21 days across the mountains. But the trekkers were stopped within the sight of the finishing line at Mount Blacktown after local property owners and the Crown Land Trustee refused to allow them access to the site. Reenactment instigator John O'Sullivan says the decision was devastating.
One would feel gutted and disappointed. But, you know, as I said to the team, you know, like this is the end of 21 days, but it's not the end of the journey.
Blue Mountains MP Rosa Sage stepped in to help the trekkers after learning of their plight.
I was really mystified as to why. I mean, incredulous. You know, they've gone all this way and just that little bit further, and for various reasons, all human-driven, I feel. They couldn't get there.
A roundtable discussion will now be held between the parties with a view to getting the trekkers to Mount Blacktown within the next couple of months. Mr O'Sullivan says the incident highlighted access problems to a site of national significance, and fixing the problem would be a legacy of the trek.
We're not there to upset people or harass people or anything like that. We want to come to a viable solution that's good for everyone.
After months of uncertainty about its future, Parkley markets will be staying in business. 4 sale signs were this week replaced with a sign reading, "Our markets are not for sale, Con is back," leading locals to question what had happened to trigger the unexpected change of fortunes. Developer Constantine lost control of the business when it was put into the hands of an insolvency firm in 2011. The site was put up for sale at the beginning of April this year. But a Parkley market spokeswoman says Mr Constantine regained control of the business on May 31. The spokeswoman says the man pictured on the signs was one of the stall holders who had volunteered to pose for the photo, jumping for joy at the news. Mr Constantine's business went into receivership when its creditors sought the repayment of $53 million in debts. In March, Blacktown Council approved an application for the markets to open on Fridays as well as Saturdays and Sundays. Mr Constantine had been seeking approval for a $136 million redevelopment of the site that included a 36-room, 4.5-star hotel when his company was placed in receivership. Sydney Airport has played down the need for a second airport, revealing plans to double the number of passengers to more than 74 million by 2033. A draft 20-year master plan integrates the international and domestic terminals and reconfigures surrounding roads to deal with growing congestion. The document, which assumes no changes to runways, the curfew or the flight cap, argues the measures will ensure the airport can handle projected growth well beyond the next 20 years. The draft master plan will be on public exhibition until August 30. A 20-bed mental health unit for South West Sydney was opened at Liverpool Hospital last week. The $12.8 million unit will cater for people with mental illness who no longer require acute care. It will also support people who live at home but are struggling to cope with day-to-day living skills. The unit features therapeutic patient areas including a gym, quiet rooms and an activity room with arts and crafts. What's in a name? Liberal councillors like Carlo Siljeg believe Blacktown Council area needs another sweeter name. Deputy Mayor Russ Dickens, who has campaigned for years to change the name, is suggesting an Indigenous name like Bungarraby would be more respectful of Blacktown's Aboriginal history. But others like former Mayor Alan Pendleton, as well as local historian Jack Brooke, are against any name change. They say the name Blacktown is something to be proud of, as it represents the city's heritage and history. A popular Wanderers player was in Parramatta to launch a new lunchtime soccer league this week. Striker Mark Bridge was at the Old Kings Oval on Tuesday to launch the competition, which is part of Parramatta Council's Healthy Generations initiative. The initiative is designed to help people stay fit without taking too much time out of their busy lives. Bridge says it is often hard to fit in daily exercise.
This organisation have organised for lunchtime exercise. Today's football. I think it's a great initiative and it's going to help people greatly.
Liberal MPs from the St George and Sutherland Shire are lobbying for the state government to support the push for a national recycling scheme. The scheme has been under consideration for 2 years and includes a 10-cent deposit on drink cans and bottles. MPs say the scheme could be adopted when Environment Ministers from around Australia meet next month. The ministers will review a cost-benefit analysis of 10 options for reducing packaging waste, including 3 that involve charging a deposit on containers. Blacktown Pound could be sold for up to $20 million according to Liberal councillors. Councillor Carlo Siljeg says one proposal already being discussed is to sell the pound and lease land from the Western Sydney Parklands Trust at Eastern Creek to build a new one. Building a new state-of-the-art facility for the 8,000 animals currently impounded every year is estimated to cost $5 million. But Labor councillor Alan Pendleton is not convinced the council would make much money if it rents land for the pound. A report on the matter is still to come. The knives were out when 8 top apprentice butchers from Western Sydney battled it out for the ultimate supremacy at South Western Sydney Institute of TAFE. Thursday's butchering clash marks the start of Western Sydney's regional world skills competition, which will see young tradespeople go head-to-head with others in their field over the next 5 months. There are 35 categories and one winner from each will be given the opportunity to test their skills against other talented tradespeople from around the country at the 2014 National World Skills Competition. Third-year apprentice butcher Sam Maguire was selected by his TAFE teacher to compete in the butcher battle. Mr Maguire says the winner would be determined by their remarkable knife skills.
In the butchering competition, we are expected to break down a full lamb and value add most of the cuts and trim and prep ready for display. Same with a chicken, with 4 value added products out of a whole chicken, and making sure that it looks good, looks eye appealing and is worthy for someone to purchase.
Mr Maguire says he loves the social side of the industry.
Being able to talk to customers, giving them advice and really just making sure that my customers are happy. And it's really nice to see customers smile when they leave, so I wanted to make sure I could do that to the best of my ability. That's why I decided to pursue a career in it.
More than 200 TAFE students from Western Sydney are expected to participate in the competition, which will run until the end of October. Television Sydney has celebrated the launch of its newest series. Models of Achievement has been produced by TVS and features the stories of 20 determined Australians who changed their lives through higher education. A launch for the 10-part documentary series was held at the TVS studios on Thursday, where a studio audience asked participants about their incredible journeys. The launch program will be broadcast on June 11, with the Models of Achievement series premiere on June 18. Australia's largest indoor go-kart track is being built in Narellan. The brainchild of brothers Garth and Christian Muller, the Petrolheads entertainment facility will be 450 metres long and 6 metres wide. And the brothers promise to be the best, with 30 karts imported from France and a race simulator, which means drivers can be in a Formula 1 car in Monaco or a V8 car at Bathurst. The karts can reach speeds of up to 80 kilometres an hour. A private collection of Australian artefacts is expected to fetch about $50,000 when it goes under the hammer in Buxton later this month. Beryl Lee says she knew it was time to sell her late husband's collection when she tripped trying to move a wagon jack. The artefacts date mostly from the 1920s to the 1950s and include blacksmith tools, axes, traps, horse equipment and 2 Furphy water tanks, one of which dates to the late 19th century. The auction will be held on June 16. It will be cat lovers' heaven at Gymea on Sunday when Australian National Cats holds its Silver Jubilee World Cat Federation show. About 100 different breeds of cats will be on display, including 8-kilogram champion Maine Coon Gran Torino, while a newly bred cinnamon-coloured Burmese cat will make its show debut. The show is at Gymea Tradies starting at 8 a.m. And in sport, Sunday's game between the Penrith Panthers and West Tigers will be an important match for both teams. The Panthers are now in 8th position on the NRL ladder after bouncing back from a disappointing start to the season. And a win at home this weekend could see them climb the ladder even higher. The Tigers, who are coming last, just added 4 more players to their long injury list, including winger Matt Utai and fullback James Tedesco, who will miss Sunday's game. But the Tigers are expected to put up a tough fight against the Panthers in a bid to turn their season around and secure a 4th win. Panthers coach Ivan Cleary has named an unchanged lineup from the last game against the St George Illawarra Dragons, which they won 19-0. The Western Sydney derby will kick off at 3 p.m. at Centrebet Stadium in Penrith. For more than half a century, Bob Rouse has been a well-known figure in the country's racing industry. Now, after a record 67 continuous years as Jockey's Room Supervisor across all Sydney racetracks, Bob has retired at the age of 97. Mr Rouse was raised in a racing stable at Grafton and started as a Jockey's Room Supervisor in 1946. Since then, he has built many memories on and off the track of great horses, jockeys and trainers. He remembers seeing the Great Far Lap before he was shipped to America, and a great thrill was seeing Burnborough win the 1946 Australia Day Handicap on his first day in the job. It's been a year when the word break gained new meaning for Fairfield athlete Sebastian Acosta Vasquez. The 16-year-old, who took up athletics only 2 years ago, was a competitor in the under-17s long jump at the Little Athletics state titles in March when he broke a state record. But in that same jump, the promising youngster from Mounties Athletics Club also broke his left ankle. The crutches are now gone and Sebastian is out of plaster and back in training. In the next 6 months, he'll compete at events including the zone, state and national titles. And finally, authors Derek and Julia Parker have been entertaining crowds in Western Sydney with their astrology-inspired poetry readings. The British couple performed a spirited hour-long reading from their latest collection of books at Parramatta Library on Wednesday. The Poems of Love and Life series consists of 12 books, each a collection of well-known poems directly relating to the characteristics usually attributed to one of the 12 signs of the zodiac. Mrs. Parker says lovers of books, astrology or poetry would enjoy the readings.
I hope they expect to be entertained. I hope if they're slightly interested in astrology they'll learn a little more. But of course it's for people who also love poetry.
Mrs. Parker says the books are an example of how astrology could be woven into all aspects of life.
It can help you in all sorts of ways, and of course there's so much more to it than what you read in the magazine.
Mr. Parker says the couple hopes to inspire more people to learn about astrology.
If you want to take a serious interest in astrology, it's almost a life's work. You know, it is extraordinarily interesting, and at least you'll never be bored again.
And that's all for this week's bulletin. For more information on any of these stories, pick up your local Fairfax community newspaper. I'm Bianca Martins. We'll see you next time.